Hey everybody, video here for you today. Now, this weekend I was going to move away from Mesoamerica and the Mayans and start talking about some other things that I have just started working on, but there is one site that I'm going to talk about today because I've been reading about this for the last day or so, off and on, and this place is a big mystery, in my opinion, and sometimes when you just initially look at a site and you're kind of surprised because you never heard of it, and then the naming of the site, and if there are more questions that are presented instead of answers for a site, well, that makes for a good video. And today we are going to go down to a site in Mexico. We are going down to Tonala, Mexico, and pronunciation is not a strong point of mine. But I read about these ruins, and they are just called the Ruins of Tonala, and there is another name I will get to in a second that is even more nondescript. But I got these ruins kind of confused with a few other places that sound the same, including this place here, Tonina, this archaeological site here that is very impressive. But this place here, I read about it, and it just got a little weirder and weirder. But it takes quite a hike, I guess, to get up into the hills here. There is a gravel road that leads you part of the way up here, I guess. And this place is visited, but what I found here was pretty strange, pretty mysterious, and just questions. Now, I looked around YouTube to see if anybody had visited this ancient site and was asking the right questions, and there's just a few videos on YouTube on the site. Nobody I know of has visited the site, but here you get a good look. I will leave the link for this video. It just gives you a look from overhead, gives you an idea at the scale of this ancient site. Here you get a look at one of the main structures in this mountaintop city. Is this a big ancient pyramid under here? Well, I wonder about that. And I wonder a lot of things about this site. Who built it? When was it built? Who lived here after they rediscovered it? But I will leave the link for this video below. Now, since the YouTube videos were not in English and I really didn't know what was going on here, this is the first website I read. It says, in the last century, it was simply known as Ruina de Tonala, but the inhabitants of Tonala region considered the main platform of the main building, B1, was a basement of an old church. Thus it was traditionally called Iglesia, Old Woman. It says the most outstanding feature of Iglesia VIEJA is the megalithic architecture that uses extraordinary large granite stone blocks, some of which measure more than 3 meters or 2 tons, and I think that might be a little conservative, which can only be seen on this site within all Mesoamerican buildings. And I read that and went, really? This is great, huh? Now I wanted to find out when people think this place was built, and I found a wide range of answers. Some people state this place, there is evidence of occupation going back to 3000 BC. Here it says, at Iglesia VIEJA, off the beaten path in an out-of-the-way area of the Pacific coast, you feel the thrill of an explorer. Little is known about this vast site, perched in an altitude of 700 meters, and from where you can see the ocean. The inhabitants imagine the vestiges of a church, hence the name. It is thought that it was founded around 1000 BC by the Mixtecocan group, and that it shows Olmec and Zapotec influences. Several interesting stelas and engraved stones are of particular note. So all of the theories on this place start with probably, or not much is known, or we're not sure, but it seems nobody knows what's going on here. Now I will leave some links below, but here this one gives you a good look around. Here is the view, I guess, from up near these ruins. But here are some of the stone ruins. There are many stone structures here. There are ruins that are off the beaten path that I guess a few local guides can take you to, and I'll show you some really mysterious ruins and some old pics here towards the end of the video here. Here is the view overlooking the city, and this will give you an idea of the trek through this jungle here up to these ruins. Obviously very hard. Now here is a cross that is on a piece of large stone here, and people theorize, well, this was the basement of a church. I think that was just a very kind of generic title that was put on this place, and some of these symbols may be why, but these are ancient symbols that have nothing to do with Christianity. But here's a look, and this just looks like the front of a pyramid, the base of a pyramid, and what is up through here. Now here are some pics from the site. What is underneath this vegetation here? Is this a step pyramid, I wonder? Now there are altars, stone altars that are found in and around these stone structures, so this art kind of interests me, and I'll show a few of these a little later in the video, but they don't really look Mayan or Olmec or anything really I can identify. Are these very ancient? Well, that's a possibility. Here are some of the ruins peeking out. I guess some of this place is very inaccessible. Some of it has visitors that come up here. But here's that stonework again from a different angle. Here's a face carved in a stone here. And what do these look like? Well, you can leave your opinions below. But these kind of give me an odd feeling. Places I have seen similar faces on stone and that are very, very old. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, a few of you. But here, more of the structure just kind of buried by time. But here are some more looks at the different stonework on the structures that are kind of buried in different parts. Here's a road that leads part of the way up here. Here's another view. Now here is a PDF I found, Before the Maya, How Time Began in America by Vincent Malmstrom. And this is something I've been looking into, but visiting ancient sites in Mexico and Mesoamerica, he visits the ancient church, as it is called, and he is kind of amused by that title. But this is a very good paper, and I will leave the link below. But here it describes their journey up to this ancient site. It says, in what must have been another hour and a half, we neared the summit, and the outlines of the abandoned ceremonial center began to appear in the scrub. Mounds of debris revealed the redoubts of what had obviously been a fortified site. Soon we were passing through the narrow gate of the city, and ahead of us were the foundations of a massive temple or palace, the likes of which I had seen nowhere else in Mesoamerica. It says, I could scarcely imagine who would have climbed more than 3.5 hours to the top of a mountain to build a fortified city of polished granite. Certainly the style of construction was unlike anything that I had seen, except possibly in the Andes. Yet interspersed among the polished granite structures were some of the most primitive sculptures I had ever seen, among them a turtle. Oscar called the site Iglesia VIEJA, or Old Church, clearly a misnomer if I had ever heard one, but it was truly an intriguing place because of its mix of seemingly advanced construction techniques and extremely elementary artwork. The only thing that had made any sense to me at all as a geographer was its strategic location. And here they have a pic of the wall. It seems buried, very large stonework, granite, that is very unique. And there is really no name for this city, and that also, it just appears weird to me. It says the archaeological site on the mountain above the town of Tonala, identified by our guide Oscar, to the right in the photo above as Iglesia Vieja, or the ancient church, was clearly a fortified bastion constructed of polished granite, some of whose blocks were 20 feet long, 2 feet in width, and some 8 inches in thickness. The only comparable workmanship I have personally observed in my research in the Americas was in the Andes of South America, both among the people who built Tiwanaku of Bolivia and the Incas of Peru. And there is a big mystery in some of that stonework. But here he talks about a compliment from the Dean of Mesoamericanists, Dr. Michael Coe, and he is a professor of anthropology at Yale University. It says, speaking at a symposium in Riverside, California in 2012, he is quoted having said, my book ranks as possibly the most important work of the 20th century on Mesoamerica. So this is no kook writing this stuff, and when he says the stonework reminds him of Tiwanaku and some places in Peru that the Inca are attributed to a building, I will listen to that. And I will make a serious note of that because that is important. But this stonework really intrigued me in how he described parts of it, and it being granite and polished, and it seemed to be extremely well manufactured. Who in the heck was doing that up on top of this hill that even today it's really hard to get up to? Who was doing this really impressive stonework up here? This wall really intrigued me, and this is where it got even stranger, much stranger. Now here is a website I found, Early Latin American Photography, and they found some pics that were never ever published, and let me just read. Last year we found these photographs of Mexican ruins. They are quite beautiful gelatin silver prints on semi-matte paper. Along with the captions taped on the back of each image, there was a name, Nugent M. Clower. Who was he? What was he doing in Mexico? When were these photographs taken? And here is one of the tags, Pyramidal Formation Ruins above Tonala, state of Chiapas, Mexico. It says, at first, we had accredited the images to him, and even though we didn't know who he was, it seemed evident he was a photographer. His name was right there. It says, that's when a little research can change everything we thought we knew. A few months later, we found a chapter written by him in the review, The Wonders of the World, a popular and authentic account of the marvels of nature and of man as they exist today. Published in 1911, the chapter on North America shows a mix of photographs of Mount Pelez in Martinique, the Great Fountain Geyser in Yellowstone, the caves of Bellamar in Cuba, and different ruins in Mexico. He was a writer, not a photographer, but evidently these photographs were never published. And let me just show you a few of them. In these pics that are over 100 years old, he documents these ancient ruins above Tonala in Mexico, and huge stonework here. And this, I guess, maybe is how it reminds him a little bit of Tiwanaku in Bolivia. And pics like this, where you have small stones, and then you have these, I'm not even sure what I'm looking at here, but that certainly reminds me a little bit of Pumapunku. This fortified wall, and I think it went for 150 meters and formed an enclosure. I think that's the way it sounds to me, but you guys want to look into this? I have only spent so much time on this story, so I'm sure there is more things to be found if you want to look into this further, but I find that pic very interesting right there. And just to show you some of these other over 100-year-old pics, here is granite that was uncovered that had carvings or bas relief, I guess, images made in them. Here, it almost appears that there is two legs here. That almost looks like a foot right here. Right here, this appears to be some sort of, let's blow that up a little. That appears to be some sort of creature, but I found these carvings here to be pretty interesting. And here, I'm not sure what this is, but maybe this is the sun disk on each side of this thing, whatever it is. Obviously a face carved in this stone, and this might have been the stone where there was a face carved on each side of it. But clearly there was stonework underneath the vegetation, and even some of the stories on this place says these are pyramid foundations, but there is no pyramid documented here. There is no, you look on the Mesoamerican list, there is no pyramid documented here. Some of these are described as terraces, but the evidence here that stonework lies underneath the vegetation is obvious here. And just look at this pic here from over 100 years ago. Was the true origin of this structure just lost? Because it's obviously a pyramid. And then I thought, well, this obviously has to be another Mayan site or a pyramid in Mesoamerica that was discovered when it had vegetation and trees growing on it, and then it was wrongly assigned to Tonala. But the next pic, well, that proves this is exactly where it was taken at. Here is the very next pic. This is said to represent a turtle here with the shell on top, the engravings. This pic is over 100 years old. Came right after the pic of that ancient pyramid ruins. Well, how do we know this is at Tonala? Well, here is that very same turtle. You can tell this is the same one by the art, where these lines are and where this is right here. This is the same turtle. It comes from the very same place. These are the ruins above Tonala, and there clearly was, or maybe still is, a pyramid here, and we have just lost this story completely. And here is one other look at the stone ruins before trees totally overtook this place, and sharing 108-year-old pics that really nobody has ever seen before. Lost history, that's what it is all about to me. But this place had big enclosures, buried pyramids, large stonework that is very unique to this area. I thought this was an important video to do. But this is one site that I looked into looking for answers, and I just got the feeling this is a site that has kind of fallen through the cracks. Nobody that really has asked any pertinent questions, I don't think, has visited here. Maybe not a lot of people know about this. Maybe like me, I get it confused with a few other sites, but well worth the video today. Who built some of these strange ruins here that these 100-year-old photographs are showing? And I showed you one fairly recent pic of this structure probably buried. Two built with the original massive granite, and whatever this was built for, this wall that seemed to be part of an enclosure, well, I think that is a big mystery. No channels that I have seen, and there are a lot of them on YouTube, have gone into this site, at least that I can find. Maybe somebody has visited here. Any information you can add, I would certainly appreciate. But unique stonework at this place, and I guess some of this place is yet unexplored, or not many people know about it, but there is stonework all the way through this hilltop or small mountaintop. Some of the architecture is very unique to the area. Hope you thought this was cool. I need to run, and you all have a very nice day.